Yeah, so the 2001 AUMF, and AUMF stands for Authorization for the Use of Military Force. It's a very fancy way of saying that Congress is giving the power to go to war. We used to pass declarations of war. We haven't done that since World War II, and so in the 8 decades since World War II, Congress has passed these war authorizations, these AUMFs. It's important to understand why Congress passes those, or why that power rests in Congress, because I think it's often lost in these conversations. And when the framers put together our Constitution, they had to answer this question: who's going to decide when our country goes to war? They decided they didn't want the president to have that power. They wanted Congress to have that power. And they did it for two important reasons. One, they knew, living in an age of kings and queens, that it was dangerous to let one person decide when your country goes to war. And we see that right now. The entire impeachment is about the nature of a president putting his personal interests above the national interest. The framers wanted to protect against that. So they gave the ultimate power, this massive authority of going to war. They gave that to Congress. And the second reason they did this is because they wanted it to be hard. Congress is big, it's messy. Everyone knows Congress is dysfunctional, but that's the point. If you can't get a majority of 535 people to agree that our country should go to war, we shouldn't send men and women off to fight and die in that war. We shouldn't kill other people in that war. And this gets to the bigger part of your question, is that Congress voted in the days after the September 11th attacks. They voted to give a war authorization to hold accountable the perpetrators of those attacks. It actually didn't say Afghanistan. It didn't say Al-Qaeda. This was hours after the attacks. People did not know yet who was responsible. But Congress said, we want to give authority to the government to go after militarily those who did this. One brave member of Congress, Barbara Lee from California, stood up and said, this is too broadly written. This is a blank check. We will come to regret this. And unfortunately, her words were prescient. I think we need to be honest that she faced death threats and severe hostility for that vote. But today, as you heard on the Democratic debate stage last night, folks running to be the next president recognized that she was right in that moment. What we've seen over the intervening 18 years is this authorization that was originally about going to war after the attacks of September 11th has been used for military action everywhere from Southeast Asia to Africa. Countless countries in the Middle East is currently being used to justify war in over a dozen countries against groups, many of which were not even in existence during September 11th. And we've gone so far beyond what those members of Congress thought they were voting on in 2001 that it's long past time to have a reckoning.